Welcome to the Mishkan Integrated Project. For those of you who like to know the big picture first, what you're going to be doing over the course of this project is eventually coming up with a design for a personal Mishkan that plays with some of the imagery and themes of the Israelite Mishkan, but also with themes and details from your own life and choosing the format that you want. Okay, so how are you going to do that? So let's go back to the step by step. This packet called the Mishkan Project e-packet. This is where most of your work is going to end up, even though it's going to borrow from material that you've written elsewhere. And here's a quick tour of what's on the project e-packet. It starts with the link parking lot. Now you're not going to do this section until the project you're going to be doing this section as the project goes along, and it's where links to your various to your work will go. So as you complete various requirements, the links and a description about what the links are go here. Also, there's an area where you can paste before and after pictures of prototypes and feedback that you get. So whenever you're like, I don't know where the link goes for this material that I've been working on, this is like the parking lot, the bank of all the relevant links. I put it at the front, at the top, so it's easy to get to. Now, for those of you who are like, all right, just step by step, how does this project work? I don't understand. This is called getting started. Every time you finish a step, you should put an X here, and it'll keep you on track to go through the project step by step and get you set up. This is all kind of like one chapter, then it shifts modes. This is like the next chapter in here. And again, as you go along, you should always put an X there so you always know like where in the project you are. It's got a lot of steps because it's a big integrated project. Okay, now for those of you who like things explained in terms of the detail of it, what's the point of this project? This project is going to be about 3 different elements. The first one is the text, the actual Israelites Mishkan, and what were its purposes and furniture. You'll remember that from a Prezi, which you can link to here. Combining that or mashing that up against stuff from your life, as we talked about earlier. And lastly, talking about fortification and interventions. That link is here too. We've done that in class, or we will be doing that in class as you talk about how to raise your quality of life. So everybody's Mishkan project by the end will be both about, or all 3 about, the Israelite Mishkan, your own philosophy, and ways that people raise their qualities of life. What are the requirements? You get credit for the designing and the building. You get credit for the quality and completion. You should read all this stuff. And you get, lastly, you do a presentation. You'll notice that even though like this student used Minecraft, eventually it's handed in the form of in this case, a Google slideshow where the work is curated and notes about what the different elements are at the bottom. Okay. Now, this is probably the most important feature for me to point out because you can't really do the project without it, and it's called the blueprint. The blueprint has these different categories: quality of life, fortification, intervention. Remember, I mentioned that earlier. And this is all color-coded to match up to here. So this is material that you will write about on it or talk about in interviews, quality of life, fortification, intervention. This is material from a Godcast. This is material from the personal Mishkan journal. This area here, and this area here, and this area here. Now, what is this giant grid? Think of this giant grid as kind of a like a final checklist or parking lot of all the final ideas you plan to and are commit to including in your design. Because you're going to be writing a lot of stuff in your personal Mishkan journal, exploring different elements of the Israelite Mishkan and, it's having trouble loading, of the Israelite Mishkan and how it relates to your life. And you're going to be exploring a lot of those. I don't know why it's not loading, but trust me, it will. But you're not going to use all of it. You're only going to use the elements that you pick and choose and put onto this grid. And then when you sit down to design, you're going to want to go through each thing. And as you include that box in your design, you plop a couple of X's there. Okay, so it's like your visual checklist. Make sure you covered everything. Once you finish the design and you've got all the different categories you need, and you'll notice here it talks about how many of each one you need. Here you need 2 of these, You need 2 of these. You need 2 of these. After you finish that, you've checked them all off. They're in your design. Then you do a write-up where you explain to me, because I don't know what the rationale was for why you included certain things in your design and how you're including it. That's the write-up. You actually put the write-up right here. And lastly, you use that write-up to make a presentation script, which is the notes that will accompany your presentation, so that when you stand up in front of the class to explain your Mishkan, you're actually working off this script that you culled from your write-up. So in order of operation, it goes a bunch of Chavruta sessions and your Mishkan journal, which, here it is. Okay, which for some reason there we go. Mishkan journal items are going to be in this document, and you're going to have some Chavruta sessions. Those ideas will make their way onto this visual checklist, otherwise known as the blueprint. Then you design and make sure that you use all your blueprint ideas. Check them off with X's so that you can remember which ones you've done already. Check them off. Once you're done, eventually you're going to do the write-up where you explain to me what the different features are and how you use the different elements from the blueprint. You write it up as it's a couple paragraphs. It's usually about 2 pages long, 1.5 pages, maybe a little more. And finally, you turn that into your presentation script, which accompanies your actual presentation. Now, obviously, you're going to have tons of questions, especially about, can I use this program or that program? I'm going to save that for a different video. This one is really just focused on the e-packet where all your work will go. I'll mention that at the bottom, I have 4 examples of excellent projects you should look at to gauge, to get a sense of what we're talking about. They're all very different from each other. Take a look at those. And there's some relevant links if you're ever wondering where something is. You can find it here, or you can always find it on the Progress Web, otherwise known as Assignment Checklist. All the resources are there as well. Okay. Now, at this point, you probably have questions. Jot them down right now in your class notes, and then we'll get together and discuss. All right, good luck, guys. I'm really excited for this integrated project and to see what kind of creativity you apply to solving the challenge of a project that is both on the 3-way triangle, about the text, about your life, and about fortification and intervention.